My name is Dan Finucane, and I'm currently a regent. I love folk music, blues music, and I love singing and playing with other people.
My name is Ian Peoples. I'm a Jesuit regent. I'm kind of a football fanatic. Most of my weekends are spent watching at least a few games. I'm probably one of the biggest Lionel Messi fans.
Hi, my name is Dan Finucane, and I'm joined by my co-host and Jesuit brother, Ian Peoples. And today, as you can tell, we are joined by a couple of other Jesuits between us. And we are here to have what is probably our most important, but probably our most controversial episode of all time.
That's right. Today we are going to debate when it's okay to start listening to Christmas music. So we brought on some members from our Jesuit community to have this debate. And trust us, we don't agree. If you've been to dinner with us at any time in the past month, maybe month
9
and a
months.
half.
When was the last visit? Let's see.
This is an ongoing
11 months.
conversation. So we decided to bring this to MagisTalk. So we want to thank Father Brian Christopher, Superior of the Jesuit community, for being with us, and Father David Kiblinger, who's Associate Pastor at St. Martin de Porres Parish. But I think we're missing one person.
We are. So we originally had invited the pastor of St. Martin de Porres Parish, Father Andres Balsera, to join us. But he had another commitment that came up that didn't allow him to be with us. And so we we're disappointed. We're not mad, we're just disappointed.
So let Father Andres know in the comments, if you're watching on Facebook and YouTube, that you really are sad that he's not with us. But, you know, he would probably be on the wrong side of this debate today anyways, at least according to a couple of us.
Wow.
And we will find that out soon. So unlike most of our episodes, we have some debate-style rules for our episode today, and I'm going to go over those real quick just to remind all of us that are participating how we'll proceed. So the first thing to say is that everybody's going to have a chance to state their position on when is appropriate to listen to Christmas music and why. Right? You can't just say when, and then just assume that we all know why. You gotta back up your case. Each person will have about a minute to answer. I'm not actually going to keep time, but just we'll have about a minute to answer. And then once everybody has had a chance to share their opening position, then if you want to respond to somebody else's position, go right ahead, and we'll take it from there. So I think with that, I'm going to ask this guy to my right here, Father David Kiblinger, to start us off. When is it appropriate to start listening to Christmas music, and why?
Well, I'll say I am more of a Christmas music maximalist. I believe that in most times of the year, it's appropriate to bust out a Christmas tune. The reason is, I would say when I was a child, I sort of had this misunderstanding of what Advent was. I thought we had to kind of close our eyes and close our ears and pretend that Jesus might not come this year. And then on Christmas, be surprised that he would come. But as I grew older and grew in my faith, I realized that that's not really what Advent's about. Advent, we do prepare ourselves for the coming of Jesus, but we're preparing ourselves for the second coming of Jesus. And that second coming, we can prepare ourselves for at any time during the year. Obviously, it's more focused now, but that it's a sort of eternally valid spiritual principle, I think, that we're waiting for Christ's coming, and we can do that any time during the year.
All right.
Well said, David. Well said.
Next, we'll hear from Father Brian.
A good day, friends, and a pleasant ho 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 to you. I'm not sure what we mean by Christmas music. Are we talking Christmas carols? What's the difference between a Christmas carol and other Christmas music you might sing at church? Like, It's the most wonderful time. We don't sing that at church. What's Christmas music?
Well, feel free. Yeah, make your
So let
distinction.
me, and I'm not going to make a distinction. I'm not sure what the distinction is, but let me say this. My argument would be more aesthetic versus theological. Point well taken that my colleague here made about, Jesus was born and the incarnation is every day, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Boring. But let's face it, most of the Christmas music out there is just horrible. It's just chintzy, it's saccharine, and what gets me most about it is that it's super happy. Now, I wore green today to represent the Grinch. But I'm actually trying to make a serious point here. Because the fact of the matter is, this is a time of year that is so painful for so many people. If you've ever lost a loved one, if you've lost a loved one in the last year, or if you can't afford to put presents under the tree for your kids, or if you can't put food on the table for your family, and you turn on the TV or you walk into the stores, and what do you see? You see these images of laughing, smiling children and the most wonderful time of the year and visions of sugar plums dancing in your head. It's a really alienating feeling. It can be a really lonely feeling. So if I were to answer the question, there's part of me that wants to say, when is it appropriate to start listening to Christmas music? There's a part of me that wants to say, never! But I wouldn't say that. For myself, and again, this is more of an aesthetic thing. It's more of a taste thing, and I represent good taste here at the table. I would say late December. In my family growing up, it was after Thanksgiving, U.S. Thanksgiving, which is the last Thursday in November. Here in Belize, maybe you'd say after November 19th, I'd be willing to bend. I'd be willing to go there, right? But I'm sure anybody with good taste would say definitely December 1st would be a safe start date for Christmas music. But not too much. My gosh, not too much. Not like this guy. In July, he's listening to Christmas music.
Let me make my own case, Brian. Thank you.
I want to keep you honest.
So thank you, Father Brian, for sharing your position. And next we'll go to Ian.
Well, since I've already been ousted as a lover of Christmas, I will say that I think
Are those lights on your? Those are lights on your.
I found this in Jeremy Zippel's box, so I'll return it there after we're done.
Okay.
But
There's a lot.
he's in Mexico right now, so if he's watching, hi, Jeremy. So my position is it's not radical, right? It's basically I listen to Christmas music when I'm feeling sad. And therefore, I think in the past 2 years, during COVID, hard times, Christmas music has been a source of consolation. And it's not like I'm listening to Christmas carols all year round. I found these great playlists on YouTube that have instrumental Christmas music. And in times when I want to feel some joy, some hope in dark times, I not only turn on that playlist, but I go to the comment section and I see who else is listening to Christmas music right now because they leave comments. It's September, and this has brought me a little joy. Thank you. It's a message of gratitude and hope. And so that's my position, right? Maybe in times when I'm feeling down, I think maybe the opposite of what you were talking about, the serious point that you made, Brian. Mm-hmm. Point well taken. Serious point well taken. But I think it does the opposite for me, where it is like a little jolt in the arm when I'm maybe feeling a little down. And so I get made fun of in our house for being one of the maximalists in the community, I would say. But I think there is a good reason behind it, and I know I'm not alone in the world.
You're not alone. Santa is with you. The baby Jesus.
It's about Jesus. I don't listen to
I got you.
But we do have one position that is missing from this debate, and so I want to invite
Oh my gosh.
Dan Finucane.
No, that's right. And I decided to prepare my argument and print it out here. So buckle up. I'll start with a song that begins with All I Want for Christmas Is You, and talk about why I think it's terrible. Now, I'm not going to go through each song because that's unnecessary. I think we know that most Christmas music, as Father Brian talked about, is just, it's saccharine and schmaltzy. And I think it takes away from the true meaning of Christmas, which, as we all know, is the coming of God to be among us, to be with us, to become flesh like you and I. And I want to make a liturgical point. This is a point that I don't hear a lot of people making, so it's a little bit of a minority report. But during Advent, there's a whole catalog of Advent music. A whole catalog of Advent music. You may not know about it. It may not be popular. It may only take up 3 pages in a songbook, but it's there. And if we really want to celebrate Advent, we don't jump ahead to Christmas music, at least at church anyway. We go to Advent music because it reminds us that, yes, okay, Christmas happened and 2,000 years ago, and Jesus was born, okay. But we're also living in a state of Advent all through the year. And so it's good to remind ourselves of that as well. So when is it appropriate to begin? I tend to start listening to Christmas music after the U.S. Thanksgiving. I will admit that. However, liturgically, I bristle whenever I hear Christmas music even hinted at. And I would add, I tend to think that most versions of Christmas songs, secular or even sometimes religious, just it becomes ostentatious.
Ostentatious.
I'll end with that word. So now we have a chance to respond to somebody that we heard earlier. And if there's something that you want to say, now's your time.
I'd like to respond to Brian's point, and I guess your point too, Dan, about all Christmas music being terrible. And I want to ask, are you talking about the sort of more commercialized Christmas music or the more religiously oriented Christmas music out there? If you are including religiously oriented Christmas music, I would like you to give us an example of one of those terrible songs so that our people can know the truth about how you feel.
That is a great question.
We just got called out, man.
Great question. Okay. Put it on the
I
record.
would say definitely the secular Christmas music gives me the shivers. I'm trying to think if there are any exceptions to that. No, not a single one. And All I Want for Christmas, the Mariah Carey one, oh my gosh, there is no earworm worse than that song. You hear that song and that will be with you for weeks and weeks on end, and it's just awful, awful, awful. I don't fault Mariah Carey for that. I'm sure it was a beautiful song when it was written, but it's just been overplayed. In terms of religious music, and you make a good point. No, good point. I don't know of any religious Christmas songs that I would say, oh, that's schmaltzy. I would say, and I have said this in homilies before, that Silent Night makes me a little uncomfortable. And I'll tell you why. Because that first Christmas that it's describing was no silent night. All was not calm. All was not bright. It was a mess. You had a couple who was unmarried. They couldn't find a place to stay. Mary had to give birth in a cave. What a mess that was for them. How chaotic, how stressful, how anxious they must have felt. So there is, I do like to use, and yet it's a very beautiful song, I'll grant you that. But I do like to use that song as a bit of a foil in my preaching during Advent.
Yeah, I want to take a pot shot at one of the commercial songs while I have the floor here.
Please do.
just because I hear it every time this time of year, Paul McCartney's Simply Having a Wonderful Christmas Time, there's a line in there, it only comes this time each year. I think that is one of the most like obvious, stupid statements that one can make. It's a birthday. Of course it happens this time each year. It's the same day every year. So I just want to point out, I think some commercial music, it's not just that it's not focusing on what we're actually celebrating. It's just dumb. It's silly. But I would say, with religious music, I would say I share some of Father Brian's sentiments in the sense that sometimes I think it creates an image of the Nativity that's a little too perfect, and that we forget that the way that Christ comes into our lives often is not in beautiful ways. Sometimes it happens in ways that kind of shake us up and turn us to something new. But that said, I tend to really like a lot of Christmas music. I actually really like Silent Night, despite what I just said. A song that it kind of straddles between secular and religious is Mary, Did You Know? And I would say that's another song that I'm kind of like, I just don't like that kind of repetitive, Mary, did you, like, to me, it doesn't do it for me. And I think at times it just feels a little, it leaves me feeling meh.
I will admit I'm not crazy about Mary, Did You Know? But I don't often associate that with Christmas, but I guess it is about the birth of Jesus. Yeah.
It's on Clay Aiken's Christmas album.
Oh, okay.
In case you're wondering. Not that I know his catalog all that well.
Can I jump in here?
Wow, that was a big admission. I'm gonna go now. Edit that one out. we just need a few minutes.
I want to jump in and just ask, what, Dan, you mentioned the distinction between kind of an Advent portion of the catalog of liturgical music and the Christmas portion. And what do you see as the difference there? And let me tell you why, because one of my favorite songs that gets in the Advent section of the catalog is Creator of the Stars of Night. And it's got this beautiful line in it about how Jesus came not as a monarch, but a child. And that's an Advent hymn, even though it's talking about, the birth of Jesus in the past. And so what would you say would be kind of the distinguishing mark? Just the fact that it shows up in the hymnal in a different area, or what's the kind of distinguishing mark there?
Yeah, no, I think part of it is just it has Advent at the top of the page. I'll be honest.
That's an Advent song, David?
It is, yeah. It's
How so?
It's the suggested one in the evening prayer of the Liturgy of the Hours most nights.
Thank you for embarrassing me on national TV. So much for singing that hymn.
I'm sure you always choose an alternative.
I always
there
do
are
alternative.
many
That's right.
hymns that I choose.
That's right.
I would more seriously, I would say I think that when it's about expectation, I think it's why O Come, and so I wouldn't put that song in Advent. I think of O Come, Emmanuel, Come, Divine Messiah. On Jordan's Bank. I think songs that point towards the fact that as Christians, we live in this weird in-between space, right? Like these events have happened, but we're still awaiting their fullness. And to me, that's why I really like Advent. It sounds weird. I think Holy Saturday has a similar place. Not to go too far afield, but I think we have these days days and times that we don't always know what to do with. But I think it's okay to feel like we're still waiting for something. And I think those songs really point to the fact that, our Messiah has come, but our world still is moving towards the fullness of time when Jesus returns, and it's still pretty broken.
And I would just piggyback on that. That song, My Soul in Stillness Waits, the refrain is, For you, O Lord, my soul in stillness waits. I love the minor harmonies of that song. There's a darkness to the music itself, not just to the lyrics. And I like that during Advent. I like to go to that dark place during Advent. That seems not just liturgically appropriate, but for me, in terms of my own spirituality, that feels like the right place to be. Yeah.
So I want to pose a question on behalf of Brian and myself to the two of you, and it's I'm going to ask two questions here. When is it appropriate to stop listening to Christmas music? And I think that might be controversial as well. But also, why is it okay to listen to it all year round? Because doesn't that make it not special then? Like, isn't it nice that, it's weird that we can get, at least in the US, we can get bananas all year round. And we lose our taste for how special bananas are.
Oh, you mean like literally bananas?
Literally.
I thought we go bananas all year round, which we do.
We've gotten used to having anything we want, but isn't there something special about having it just for a specific amount of time each year?
Well, I'll say I'm not advocating that we only listen to Christmas music year round. Although if somebody wants to do that.
A true maximalist.
A true maximalist. So maybe there could be even further Christmas maximalists than me. But all I'm saying is that it's an acceptable expression of part of our spirituality that's not bound to one part of the year. So it's kind of like, okay, it can be more intensified during this season, but it doesn't have to be absent in other seasons. I would say a full Christmas season goes at least to the baptism of Jesus, maybe even to presentation of Jesus. So let's say early February would be a time to...
So Silent Night until early February.
Sure, why not? If that's your thing.
If that's your thing.
I'm gonna agree with David on this one. I think I won't be blaring it around the house until early February, but I feel completely justified to at least listen to it through the fullness of the Christmas liturgical season of Christmas. And as to listening to it year round, I don't judge people who might want to listen to it all the time year round. I think the times that I go to it when it's not the Christmas season is those times, like I said, when I just need to feel a little more hope, a little more hopeful, a little more, and maybe there's memories attached to it. And this gets to your point, Brian, about maybe Christmas is not a great time for some people because perhaps they have bad memories attached to it. But growing up, I mean, and I thank God that I have a wonderful, I was blessed with a great family, and Christmas was always a time of togetherness in a special way. For some reason, I have this one moment of riding back from midnight mass in the car, and everyone's kind of drowsy and tired, but we know we're opening one present when we get back to the house, and we just got done with midnight mass, which always has felt like an especially holy liturgy for me, and listening to Christmas music in the car, and it was just very. It's just a great memory. So I think maybe there's a little bit of that attached to it too, or there's like experiences that I'm sort of drawing on through listening to the music.
I think that's a really good point you make. I mean, I think probably for all of us, we have associations on all kinds of different levels when it comes to Christmas and Advent and the music that we listen to. And those aren't just memories attached to the music itself, but I think those are memories that in some ways maybe shape our spirituality. And so, yeah, there are experiences of loss that I had. I loved Christmas growing up. And then I remember, not to get too serious here, when my dad got sick and then died, it's like all the Christmas traditions changed. And that was a really, really hard time. That was a very difficult time. And so for me, my spirituality, rather than trying to run away from that darkness, started moving into that darkness. And I say darkness not in a negative way, but that it's in some sense, to find the incarnation there, as you were talking about, right? So finding some hope there, or going to this place where, we're all still hoping, we're all still longing. But I think you make a really good point. These things that happen to us in our lives, really do have a big impact on our spiritual leanings.
Well,
Did I just take things in a really dark place?
No, I think it was a great place.
Well, I think maybe to build on that, I'm sitting here thinking of my own experience now of Christmas music. And I would say that my experience usually is when I hear a song, it's a reminder to be kind of joyful and lighthearted and generous. And even if I'm not feeling that way, it's for me a spur to try to not take things so seriously. And I can understand that's a different way.
And when I hear that music, I hear it as like Bing Crosby or Andy Williams is scolding me. Be happy. Everybody's supposed to be happy this time of year. It's like, well, I'm not, Andy. I'm sorry.
so I want to give anybody a chance. I've got a couple other questions here that I want to get to, but if anybody that take us a little bit more out of debate. So if anybody has any final statement that they want to make or any final thoughts, it can also just be concluding thoughts that you have from our conversation so far.
I will say, Dan, that, and you shared this position with me a couple weeks ago as we were planning this episode, but your distinction between liturgical music and that we actually listen to at Mass and maybe outside of that setting is a good one. And I think that's I think it's important to, especially at the Mass, to sort of lean into Advent songs and sort of that waiting period. So I will say I cede that position to you. I think it's a good position. But as soon as I step outside of those church doors, I'm playing "We Wish You a Merry Christmas."
You get your Mariah Carey turned up on full blast.
Any other positions we want to state before maybe a few final questions?
Could we agree that schmaltz is not good? Could just on an aesthetic level, schmaltzy music is kind of like the world doesn't need more.
We may put a little threshold on where that falls differently.
That's fair.
Yes.
That's fair.
But yes.
That's fair. I'm sure. Yeah, there'd be some songs I'm sure we could all agree on.
Yeah.
It's like
All I Want for Christmas Is You. Yeah, I mean it's
Grandma got run over by a reindeer.
that's
terrible.
hilarious.
Oh my goodness.
So we might not be able
Okay,
to.
scratch what I said. Scratch what I said.
Very good. Well, so just a question for each of us to answer. If you had to pick a favorite Christmas song, what would it be?
Easy. Oh, Holy Night.
It's a great one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I'm gonna have to go. Can I give you three? Wexford. If we're talking about Christmas carols, Wexford Carol. I don't even know what the lyrics are, but it's just a beautiful song. Forgive me. I'm gonna mention Dave Matthews Band for a moment here. I know that's very. This is not okay.
Go
I think I know the song you're going to talk
Hit the Christmas song
Yeah.
is a very cool song.
Absolutely.
And then I think everything I just said about schmaltz, I'm about to contradict it. I love Handel's Messiah. It's Baroque music, and Baroque music by definition is schmaltz. It's way over the top. What was the word you used? Ostentatious? Was that the word you used? It is by definition ostentatious. But for some reason, I really like it and listen to it nonstop during Advent.
I have two that I'll name. One, I'm sorry, Brian, it is Silent Night. And
I thought you were going to say Mariah Carey. No, I'll go with Silent Night.
it's one of the easiest songs to whistle. And so I've caught myself whistling that quite often.
Caught you whistling that too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even in July. So, and then another song that I hear and I really, really enjoy, and it kind of gets me in the spirit, is the Carol of the Bells. I don't even know if it has words to it. Yeah.
Should we try?
Yeah, it's just one that puts me in that Christmas mode. So, Dan, what about you?
I'm going to pick a song I'm actually not sure where it falls, whether it's Advent or Christmas,
Okay.
just to kind of stick to my guns here a little bit. And it was not one of my favorites until a couple years ago, In the Bleak Midwinter. And I had never even heard it until, I think, 2.5, 3 years ago. And we did a Lessons in Carols, a few of us younger Jesuits, and a fellow Jesuit and I ended up performing it together. And it just was so moving to perform. It was a very spare version that we did, and I just found it very moving. I think there's something, I like the imagery, it's very wintry, it really gets at that idea of light coming into darkness, ultimately. So I would definitely, I would say that one. Slight different take now. If you had to listen to a song on repeat, a Christmas song on repeat, what would it be? Stumped him.
Stumped, yeah. I really don't.
Well, I mean, for me, it would be easy. It's my favorite Christmas song, "Oh Holy Night." Okay.
Just on repeat.
I mean, just on repeat. Why not? I could sing it over and over again.
If I have a lot of sins to atone for, I put on Mariah Carey. That would be. But in fact, as I said, what is on repeat actually, I've got 2 albums on repeat. George Winston's December, which is very late 70s, I get it. And then Handel's Messiah.
I'm cheating. It's going to be an album. Charlie Brown Christmas. Easy.
Yeah.
That's a good
And
one.
I think I'd agree, but just to not say the same thing, I'm going to say a particular version of Joy to the World by Sufjan Stevens. If you haven't listened to it, it's got great electric guitar. It's really well done.
Okay. And I think we have a song for the people.
I think we do, actually.
And it might be
Joy to the World.
Joy to the World.
Exactly. All right, so you should have a song sheet in front of you.
Oh.
And I don't know,
There we go.
I tend to take my guitar wherever I go.
Everywhere.
So it's just here. Try not to fall out of my chair. That would be bad. All right. Do we need to warm up at all?
I think we're ready.
Good. Okay.
And if you know the words at home, sing along with
Sing
us.
along with us.
Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him room, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. Joy to the earth, the Savior reigns. Let men their songs employ, while fields and floods, rocks, hills, and plains repeat the sounding joy. Repeat the sounding joy. Repeat the sounding joy. He rules the world with truth and grace, and makes the nations prove the glories of his righteousness, and wonders of his love, and wonders of his love, and wonders of his love.
Well, on behalf of MagisTalk, we want to thank you for joining us for this debate. If you have a position that you take on this topic, let us know on Facebook or on YouTube. And if not, then we just hope you enjoyed that final song. And we want to wish you a Merry Christmas We may or may not have one more episode coming up Christmas Sunday. So we'll tune in Christmas Sunday. We'll see you then.
And a happy Advent.
And a happy Advent. Advent blessings to everyone.
And happy Gaudete Sunday.
And
when
happy-
this is airing.
Any more happies?
Probably
Thanks.
somebody's birthday. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next Sunday.